I'd like to welcome now Angela Driver, General Manager of Tas Leaders, to give us a little bit of an introduction to the program. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you, Ros. I have the great honour of welcoming you here on behalf of Tasmanian Leaders. Tasmanian Leaders exists to accelerate the leadership capacity and connectivity of Tasmanians so that together we may improve our socio-economic vibrancy. Thank you for joining us and investing in that mission. All of our offerings at Tasmanian Leaders are designed on a framework against three key areas: insight, influence, and impact. So it is our hope that by the end of the day, you leave with new insights into the topic of trust and your relationship to it. We hope you leave with new skills and greater capacity to influence and build and repair trust. Most importantly, though, we hope that you leave with motivation to apply that new thinking and skills to impact Tasmania's future through your professional and personal lives. Now, while I'm standing out here in front of you, there has been a huge team that's put today together. And I specifically want to acknowledge Danielle Campbell, who'll give a wave, and Nick Probert, who have been on our working group. And online, we've got Tom Woolley. So we're just going to bring the Zoom into the room so you'll be able to see who's up there. We've also got Jen Hegarty, who's online, and Simone Hackett in the room as well, although I think she's busy doing the name tags. Just really quickly, in terms of board members, we've got Bess Clark up the back and Adrian Daniels. They're both in the room, and online our chair, Rob Woolley, and Rebecca Greenwood. So if you want to ask any questions of these people, please feel free to grab them throughout the day. But I want us all now to stand up because everyone online can see us. So you'll see at the back there's a camera. So I just want you to stand up and give them a wave. And we're going to attempt a Tasmanian first, certainly a first for Tasmanian Leaders. We're going to do a Mexican wave or a Hobart wave out to the Zoomers, starting with our left. So we're going to start on this side and we're going to do a Mexican wave across the room. When it gets there, of course, it has to rebound. So you ready? Go, Polly. Hey. And put what noise on it? Excellent. Now over to you, Zoomers. Can you do the Mexican wave back? Wonderful. Yay, look at all them. I also wanted to mention that we've got Jess Robbins with us, who's our Think Bank Coordinator. She manages our thought leadership work, which aims to come up with or generates innovative solutions to pressing and complex issues. Jess is online, but she's going to be joining us for lunch if you want to talk to her. So the two staff members that are online, they're actually, all the magic's happening downstairs in the boardroom, so they'll be able to, we'll let them out for lunch. Finally, I want to acknowledge all of our speakers and presenters who are all generously, freely, kindly giving their time voluntarily to be with us today. So we're going to remain connected with those online throughout the day, except for when we go into small group discussions. At that point, Jen will manage them into breakout groups and we'll work at the tables in the room. So if you have a particular insight that you want to share from those group discussions, we'll need to jump onto the Facebook page, which is on a next slide. I think I've done it around the wrong way. So that's the Facebook group. If you're not part of it, join now, and that will enable you to communicate with those people that we have online. So why did we choose the topic of trust? I've got to be honest, it wasn't immediately obvious to us, but once it was suggested and we started unpacking it, we knew it was right for the year 2020. And on first glance, as we started looking into it, it seemed to us that trust was rising. After all, 10 years ago, who would have thought that you would get into a stranger's car through Uber or hire their vacant holiday home through Airbnb? And that is before we started looking at the rise in trust to our elected leaders during COVID. But unfortunately, that's not the whole picture. According to data from Edelman Trust Barometer, most of the general population do not trust government nor the media. Now, those two we can probably understand, but alarmingly, trust is also falling for business and for not-for-profits. Edelman attributes this lack of trust to people's fears about the future and, more specifically, their role in it. So this paradox of trust both rising and simultaneously declining reveals two different truth realities. The informed public, wealthier, more educated, frequent consumers of news, remain far more trusting of institutions than the mass population. In fact, in a majority of industries, that less than half of the population trust institutions. Less than half. We interpret this as a wake-up call for leaders, and it may be why you are here today. These issues are going to require new skills, new thinking, higher levels of cooperation, and better, swifter leadership. It might be useful at this point to share a couple of definitions with you. If I can go back on my... Can we go back? I've broken it. Thank you. You may already have your own definitions, and that's fabulous too. We really understand that specifically on a topic like trust, that it's really shaped by our experiences, our values, and the context or situation we're operating in. So we share these definitions purely as a starting point, with the view by the end of the day that we understand these words in more nuanced ways and know how to step into them and embody them. So here's our definition at Tasmanian Leaders for leadership. We define it as an activity, a process of influence exercised in a situation which motivates others to take action towards the achievement of a collective purpose. So it's not to be confused with authority. And it's really important that it involves others and it's an action, it's a verb or a doing word. In terms of trust, we've borrowed from Professor Jonathan Mendelow his definition. He's from the Rider University in the United States. And in his 2020 Fulbright lecture for the University of Tasmania, he described trust as a psychological state comprising the intention to accept vulnerability based on positive expectations of intentions and behaviour of the other. This is further unpacked by Edelman, who talks about people grant their trust based on two factors, competence and ethical behaviour. And I suspect those 2 points will become themes as we go through the day. So a little note on the design of the day. We've purposely kept the sessions short. We've built in lots of time for people to connect and discuss on their tables. If there is time and you want to ask a question, as Rosa said, there's a microphone in the middle of the room and we can direct that to you, or we can bring a handheld mic to you. Don't forget to introduce yourself before you speak or ask the question so that other speaker can best tailor the question for you. And for those online, just post your questions on Facebook or through the chat function. So at the end of the day, we want you to leave feeling full of new ideas, but most importantly, we want you to leave with hope for the future. For without hope, there is no trust. But that's enough from me. I've spoken too long. I want to take the last 2 minutes of my time for you to talk at your tables, to introduce, if you haven't already, yourselves to each other, and to discuss what your expectations are for the day. What brought you here? And after that, Ros will introduce our first keynote speaker, Parker Palmer, who will be interviewed by Rosalie Parker. So please, over to you. Introduce yourselves and connect. Thank you.